Hey, welcome back to Oklahoma and thanks for tuning in. So, today I just want to do something different. I recently did a video on how to restore an old toolbox and add some pinstriping to it, but there's just not enough on that box. So, I'm wanting to photobomb that box with different stickers that I love, just so that every time I look at it, I got a reminder of my past, the things I enjoy. Why not? And I'm going to use transfers this time. And I thought this would be a grand opportunity to do a little video on it and show you guys what's possible on anything that you come across, especially if it's made out of metal. You can do so many things with it. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what I got going on today, and I hope you enjoy it. Boo! So first and foremost, this is the box. You saw it on the other video. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch it first. But you'll notice that up here in this area and this area, on each end and on the back, I've got all this space here and here and the other side that I want to capture and do some kind of decorative transfers on, just because I want the box covered. I want it photobombed. So that's where I'm headed with this. As it is right now, it looks great, but more is better as far as I'm concerned. So let me show you what I've got in mind for this whole project from this point on. So what I did, I got on Canva, and if you're not on Canva, or if you don't know what Canva is, I encourage you to go look at my video on Canva itself. It'll give you all the details on making signs, transfers, everything. So every one of these is backwards for a reason, because when I flip this over and put it on the box, it'll be right. And so I downloaded pictures of skulls, flowers, Jeep, Trans Am, my Oklahoma logo. I'm a Jeep guy, of course. I've got some pictures for that, facing each direction so I can make up my mind what I want to do there. I've got a really cool idea for this guy. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Once I have my pieces trimmed down with a pair of scissors into a manageable size, as you can see here, and I had several designs to choose from. I always plan on going into these projects with multiple designs, because you may change your mind midstream. But I've got literally pictures of just about everything and multiple sizes of those pictures to make sure that I get a good fit. Now that we've got this all together, we move on to step two. Now listen, I do all these with a jet printer. I cannot speak for any other type or style of printer. I only know that the jet printers do work. So keep that in mind when you're getting ready to do this project. I have the luxury of having a jet printer at work that I can print off anything I need. All right, let's get going. Okay, quick disclaimer here that I want to make sure you all understand. When you take and make a copy of something on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, you get all this extra space around there. What I always do is cut this down to a manageable size. But then you're going to have to take your time. It's time consuming, but this makes the difference of an okay project and a really cool one. And you want to go right around, and let me give you for instance. These are a couple of them that I've already got done. And when I finished doing my initial cutout to get a manageable, workable size, I then went all the way around this outer edge and left just a tiny bit of that white lip. because depending on what you're working on, it's almost always going to be something of color. Rarely will it be white, and even if it is white, it may not be the same color white that's on the transfer you're trying to do. So basically the look you're going for is that that this is a sticker that you bought somewhere and stuck on there. You want it to look that good. And this one, for instance, I've got it trimmed down pretty good, but now I'm going to have to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to go in and trim every one of these edges in to where the feather line is and down here around the head, because I want this to look crisp and cool. This will make all the difference on your project on the tail end of it. Much like painting a car, there's way more involved in the prep work than there is in slinging the actual base coat on a vehicle. Anyway, just wanted to make sure you knew that. Okay, so step one, if you saw this previous video and tried this pinstriping technique and clear coated everything like I showed you, that's where we're starting at right here. So even though this is fairly smooth because of the clear coat, I'm going to take a piece of 2000 grit 3M sandpaper. You can get it off Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. I've got a little sponge. I got this at Lowe's. It's a sandpaper sponge that's usually about a foot long. I just cut a little piece of it off. I'm going to wrap this around here accordingly. And I'm going to use a little dab of water. And I'm going to go over this with 2000 grit over the whole box. Just to make sure everything is glass smooth so that the transfers will sit well. And I think it'll help the process. So I'm going to get started sanding this. When I get the whole box completely coated, I'll get right back with you. I just don't want to put you through the process of this. All you're going to be doing is just keeping a nice flat edge and just lightly going over this with a little bit of water until it feels slick to your fingers. No big deal. So let's knock this out and then we'll get to where the magic happens. As we're moving along on this, I thought I'd just show you real quick. I just take a little bit of water, put it on the sandpaper. I don't put hardly any pressure at all. You just sand across this and you'll feel it dragging. And even though it was pretty smooth before, I'm telling you, it's amazing what's happening here. It gives it a mirror finish. And it's so much nicer. Very, very smooth. If I get into an area where, like down here next to these hinges, the rust was a little worse, I can concentrate down on that area as much as I feel like I need to. Just nice, even strokes. Don't spend a lot of time on these, on the corners. You don't want to grind the clear coat away. You're not going to be putting a decal on that anyway. And just keep moving until you feel the sandpaper stop dragging. And man, that is so nice. We're just going to continue on. I just wanted to let you have a little look at what I've got going on here. Okay, so we've got the box all sanded. Because I used water, I had to dry it. I used my air compressor and blew all the water off with air. This section that goes inside the box, I'm going to leave out because it's unnecessary for the process. So at this point, if you're trying this at home, just remember, water is your enemy when it comes to using clear coat and stuff. So wait the extra few minutes. I'm going to let this thing sit and dry a while, and I'm going to go back over it again and look at it and make sure that it's completely dry before we start the transfer process. And this is where the magic happens. It's going to look really cool when we're done, trust me. If you choose to try just the pinstriping like I did in the first video, and you don't want to go any further than that, that's awesome. Once you put your second coat of clear coat on here, just go back over it with 2000 grit and sand it. This is literally as smooth as the paint on a car. It is really nice. You're not going to damage anything by doing that. Use water though and wet sand it so there's not much dust, and then wipe it down good and you're done. I chose to do this not only because I wanted to show you, my viewers, how to do transfers on the metal, but I just wanted more stuff on here. I wanted to photobomb this thing with decals and pictures of memories, just so I can have something to look at when it's in my shop. It makes a good conversation piece too. So anyway, we're going to wait just a little bit till this is completely dry, and then we're going to move on. All right, we're getting ready to get started. I apologize for the awkward camera angle. This is the only way I could get it to where you could see everything good. This is what I'm going to put on this side. Just a cool old, looks like something out of Mad Magazine or old Hot Rod magazines from the past. I'm going to lay it down like this. This is the top of the box. We're going to try an experiment on the side first because that'll be easier to fix if I screw something up. There's a little dent right here that I'm going to have to stay just above, but I think that's going to work out just fine. So typically in the past, I've used the brush on polyacrylic clear coat out of a can. Today we're going to try something new, and I'm going with Duplicolor acrylic enamel clear coat out of a spray can. And this is the first time I've done this, so it could go south in a hurry. But what we're going to do, we're going to lay down a medium heavy coat, and then we're going to take the transfer, we're going to stick it in place and gently massage it all around and try to get all the bubbles out and get it to lay as flat as possible, especially on the edges, without getting your fingers all over here and putting fingerprints on wet clear coat. So it's a little tricky, but it's very, very doable. All right, here we go. I've already shook this can up pretty good. One thing I've noticed right off the bat is your decal sticks a lot better on this. I'm not so sure about air bubbles and whatnot. We're just going to gently start massaging this. The cool thing about this is, and keep in mind, if this doesn't come off clean, if there's places that end up looking like they're just not, they didn't contact well, it doesn't even matter because it'll give it an old look. So you're kind of in the clear on this project. This is something anybody can do, and if you kind of mess it up a little bit, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Now I'm going around here and just touching all the way around the outer edge, because the outer lip is where you typically have the most problems. It looks to me like it's sticking really well. We're going to let this sit for about an hour, and then we'll move on to the next step, and I'll show you what's going on. Peace. So while we're waiting on this to dry, I thought I'd just give you a little tiny inside peek of what it takes around here at Oklahoma when I'm trying to do these videos. Yesterday afternoon on that truck right there, I changed out an oil sending unit, which is a pain in the butt. And while I'm waiting on this to dry enough to take you to the next step, there's the toolbox sitting right there. My wife had a pair of hippie pants that she wears a lot that had a rip on the inside seam, and I sewed that up. Yes, I can sew. I'm not ashamed of that. I am a man of many skills. So I got that all sewed up. We're down on the count here. We got about 3 or 4 minutes left until I can take you to the next step on that. But there is always something going on around here. It's controlled chaos is what I call it. Okay, so it's been about an hour, and I'm an impatient guy. This is dry to the touch. You need to look at the specifications on the can of whatever it is that you're using. I hope you'll get the stuff I use to where there's no difference between what I tell you and what actually is. We're going to get started on this. Once you get your decal or your transfer stuck on there and it's dried, we're going to take regular water. I got a cup of water right here sitting off to the side. You dip your fingers in it, and this is a messy job, so make sure you're either outdoors or in an area where you can clean up. And it's only because as you roll this with your fingers wetted, you're going to get a lot of excess paper, little pieces of paper, and it could make for a pain in the ass cleanup. So here we go. We're going to dip our fingers in water. We're going to wet the paper on this entire decal, just like so. When it's pretty well saturated, like that right there, you're just going to apply pressure and you're going to start rolling. You see what I'm doing? And just keep moving your fingers around. Like I told you, it makes a mess. And depending on what color of toolbox or metal that you have, you're going to get a little different look. Realistically, the best color that you can do this against is going to be white. But this toolbox is kind of an army green color, so we didn't have that luxury. You're just going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And occasionally, once you get to a point, you're going to want to tilt this back, brush the paper off onto the floor, whatever, and then keep right on trucking. And because, like, for instance, inside these wheels, it's kind of a gray color, that may not show up real good. This is going to work out good enough for what I want. I just don't want you to have unrealistic expectations. If you're working on a toolbox that's white, which I've never seen a toolbox be white for obvious reasons, but you just keep rolling and rolling. And it's going to take you quite a while to get all this off there. Occasionally you want to dip your fingers again, and that kind of brings out the color as you're wiping. You just keep right on rocking. At first it's going to look all milky and no detail, but the further you go with this, the better it gets. Dip your fingers again. And you've literally got to get every bit of this off there, and it'll take some time. The reason why you have to get it all off is because you're going to go back over this again with clear coat when you do the finishing touches to this, and you don't want to be spraying clear coat over something that you wish you would have wiped off. That looks cool. Not perfect, but see, when you can see a lot more of the details when it's wet. Well, when you spray your clear coat back over this at the end, you'll bring a lot of those details back in. I fully expected this because of the color of this toolbox, so this doesn't concern me at all. So far, I'm digging it. And I want it to look old, so it don't even matter. I know that squeaky sound will just about drive you insane. It is me. Now we're going to take a rag and just kind of look at it. Hang on just a second. Got a clean rag. You can actually use the rag to wipe over this to make sure that you got everything. I don't know how well that shows on camera, but to me it looks really cool. It just adds to the patina. That thing looks like it's been there for 20 years. And that's pretty much it. We're going to move on to the next one. Here's a quick side view of it. That is so cool. Alright, let's get started on that next one. Okay, the opposite side of this box, we're opting for my Ruski's Garage. And I know you don't know what that is. There's more on that to follow. I'll let you in on that little secret a little bit later down the road. We're going to put it just like that. So let's get started. I know this looks kind of silly, what I'm doing, but trust me, if you do it this way, it's going to work. You just have to lightly tap. What you're trying to do is get rid of any spacing or air bubbles that could exist underneath this. Try to get the best adhesion that you can get with the clear coat. Get it to take a bite. And we're just working our way around, especially on the outer edges, like I told you before. Once you get it pretty well seated, you can start rubbing. But if you start feeling paper roll up under your finger, you need to stop. You don't want to go so far that you start destroying the actual transfer. This is a fairly easy process, and you will come out of this looking like a pro at this. Just hang in there. It's not rocket science. Very easy to do. And this works on signs. It works on anything. You can even do this on wood. If you look at some of my other sign videos where I did these transfers on wood and it works. I prefer metal just because I love old metal signs, but this works literally on everything. So we're going with it. Let's see what we can make out of this. Once you feel like you've massaged it into place enough, don't get your fingers on this wet clear coat outside if you can keep from it. You'll end up having to sand quite a bit in the long run on that. Notice how that starts turning dark? That's because I'm pushing down and it's starting to get a bite in places that it maybe wasn't before. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on this, so don't be afraid to work it in, but as soon as you start feeling like the paper is going to start rolling up on you, don't go any further. Just stop right there. All right, I feel like that's good. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to let this sit for an hour. We're going to come back and peel the paper off. And because I'm doing the same exact motion over and over, I won't tune in again until I get this already peeled where you can just see the outcome on it, so I don't put you through the same process and make this video just drone on forever. So I'll see you a little bit down the road here and show you what this turned out like. Okay guys, so here's how my Ruski's garage turned out. It's amazing. It looks really cool, looks old. So from this point on, I'm going to complete the photobombing process. Since you know the process that takes to do this now, there's no sense in taking you through the entire process. I'm just going to show you the finished product. It's really turning out amazing. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so here's your little surprise, a little hint at what I'm doing on this. I'm not going to show you the end process yet, but I photobombed the entire toolbox, and it is going to be epic. Stay tuned. Well, I finally got this thing completed pretty much. I'm going to try to take you around this as best I can. There's the very first one I showed you. This is the front of the box. I added skulls on both sides of the pinstriping, which turned out really, really cool. I added some flowers. I'm into tattoos, and I tried to do a Trans Am transfer right there, and it didn't really show up good, but that turned out really cool. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole box. I added a Jeep. There's the other flower. There's my Ruski's garage. And on top, I don't know if you've ever seen The Breakfast Club, one of my favorite 80s movies. Everybody remembers that. And then I did a Smirnoff vodka bottle. It didn't really show up that great, but it turned out really cool too. That's another one of my favorite parts of this whole box. Then on the back side, I added, of course, the American flag, my Oklahoma logo, Oklahoma Outlaw. Then I gave a shout out to Ford and Pontiac and Jeep. This box turned out flipping amazing. I couldn't be happier with this. I hope you see what you're capable of doing by just spending a little time. All I did was the same process I took you through on the first two, and then you just rub all the paper away, and this is what you're left with. You can see the rust coming through here. It really didn't do that great of a job down here on the lower wheel, and none of that matters because you want this to look like this box has been drug around by some old mechanic half his life. So amazing. The last thing I have to do is clear coat this whole box again and sand it with 2000 grit. And I'll go over this one more time and show you the total finished process. But my goodness, I am very, very pleased with how this turned out. And I hope you are too. All right, guys. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I put 3 coats of clear over my initial designs, and this box turned out absolutely fabulous. Anybody that doesn't like this kind of stuff doesn't even need to be breathing air. Can you believe this? Call it what you want. I call it beautiful. This shows you what's possible with 8x10 copy paper and a jet printer. Look at all this. This is nothing fancy. This is jet printer copies and clear coat. That's it. But look what the possibilities hold. That is some of the coolest stuff I've ever done personally. I'm very, very happy with how this turned out, and I hope you are too. If you got any good out of this video, throw me a like. Subscribe to my channel, and all that stuff helps me out. I'm here to show you guys different things you can do for signs, for clear coat. We do a little bit of everything around here at Oklahoma, and I hope you got some good out of it today. Show your brother some love. This is Shaw with Oklahoma. I'm signing off for now. We'll see you on the next one.